title, 5 Habits That Will Change Your Life Forever by AI Audiobooks. Have you ever reached the end of another day and wondered where all the time went? You promised yourself this morning that today would be different. You would finally start exercising. You would stop procrastinating. You would be more patient with the people you love. You would begin working toward the life you've always imagined. But somehow, the days slipped away. The same routines returned. The same distractions appeared. The same excuses quietly found their way into your thoughts. If you've ever felt trapped in that cycle, you're not alone. Here's something that might surprise you. Your life is rarely shaped by the biggest decisions you make. Instead, it's quietly built by the small choices you repeat every single day. Those tiny decisions, ones that seem almost insignificant in the moment, become the foundation of your health, your confidence, your relationships, your finances, and ultimately, your future. The exciting part is this. If small habits can slowly lead us away from the life we want, they can also guide us toward a life we never thought possible. You don't need to become a completely different person overnight. You don't need extraordinary talent. You don't need perfect timing. You simply need to begin. Throughout this audiobook, you'll discover 5 life-changing habits that have the power to transform not only what you do, but who you become. These aren't quick fixes or motivational tricks. They're practical principles that anyone can apply, regardless of age, background, or current circumstances. So settle in, take a deep breath, and give yourself permission to imagine a better version of your future. One built not by chance, but by choice. Let's begin. Welcome, and thank you for choosing to spend part of your day with us. Whether this is your first time listening or you've been part of this community for a while, we're truly grateful you're here. This channel is dedicated to sharing motivational and personal development audiobooks designed to help you grow one step at a time. Our goal isn't simply to inspire you for a few moments. We want to provide practical ideas, meaningful stories, and lasting lessons that you can carry into your everyday life. Every audiobook is created to encourage reflection, build resilience, and help you become the best version of yourself, one habit at a time. Now, let's explore today's journey together. Today's audiobook is titled 5 Habits That Will Change Your Life Forever. The word forever can sound like a bold promise, but lasting transformation doesn't happen because of one extraordinary event. It happens because of ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. Many people believe they're only one big opportunity away from changing their lives. They wait for the perfect job, the perfect schedule, the perfect amount of confidence, or the perfect moment to begin. But meaningful change rarely arrives all at once. Instead, it grows quietly through the habits we practice every day. The truth is that your habits influence nearly every part of your life. They shape how you think, how you manage your time, how you respond to challenges, how you care for your health, and how you move toward your goals. The good news is that habits can be changed. And when your habits change, your future begins to change with them. In this audiobook, we'll explore 5 foundational habits that have helped countless people create healthier routines, stronger mindsets, deeper relationships, and greater purpose. Along the way, you'll hear relatable stories, practical examples, thoughtful reflections, and simple action steps you can begin using immediately. Each chapter builds naturally on the last, giving you a clear path toward lasting personal growth rather than temporary motivation. I encourage you to stay with me until the very end. The final chapters will bring everything together with a practical 7-day challenge designed to help you put these ideas into action and begin creating meaningful change in your own life. So, wherever you are right now, whether you're commuting, relaxing at home, taking a walk, or simply looking for a fresh perspective, I invite you to listen with an open mind. You may discover that the life you've been hoping for doesn't require a complete restart. It may simply begin with the next habit you choose to practice. And with that, let's begin our journey together. Chapter 1: The Quiet Power of Small Daily Habits. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain. From where you are, the summit seems impossibly far away. You might even wonder if reaching it is worth the effort. Yet every experienced climber knows a simple truth. No one reaches the top in a single leap. Every journey is made one step at a time. Life works the same way. Many people believe that dramatic transformation comes from dramatic actions. They wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect plan, or the perfect moment when everything finally clicks into place. They tell themselves they'll start eating healthier next Monday, begin exercising next month, or pursue their dream after life becomes less busy. But life rarely becomes less busy on its own. The people who create lasting change usually don't begin with extraordinary decisions. They begin with ordinary habits repeated consistently over time. While these habits may seem almost too simple to matter, they quietly shape our character, our confidence, and ultimately, our future. This chapter introduces the first and perhaps most important lesson of this audiobook. Lasting change is built on consistency, not intensity. As you listen, you may discover that the life you've been hoping for isn't waiting for one big breakthrough. It may be waiting for one small habit practiced every day. Main lesson: have you ever planted a seed? On the day you place it in the soil, nothing remarkable happens. The ground looks exactly the same as it did before. A week later, there may still be no visible change. If someone judged the seed by what they could see, they might assume nothing was happening at all. Yet beneath the surface, something extraordinary is taking place. Tiny roots are spreading through the soil, preparing for growth that will eventually become impossible to ignore. Habits work in much the same way. When you choose to wake up 10 minutes earlier, you probably won't feel like a different person tomorrow. Reading a few pages today won't suddenly make you an expert. Taking a short walk this evening won't instantly transform your health. The results seem invisible. And because they're invisible, many people quit before the real rewards arrive. Think about someone learning to play the piano. During the first week, every note feels awkward. Fingers hesitate. Mistakes are constant. Progress feels painfully slow. But after months of daily practice, something changes. The movements become natural. Songs that once seemed impossible become familiar. What looked like talent was actually the result of consistent habits repeated over time. The same principle applies to nearly every area of life. Confidence isn't built during one motivational speech. It's built every time you keep a promise to yourself. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you practice. Success isn't usually one giant achievement. It's often thousands of small choices that no one else ever sees. Imagine two friends who graduate from school together. The first decides to read just 15 minutes every day. The second tells himself he'll read when he has more time. 1 year later, the difference is hardly noticeable. 5 years later, one has absorbed dozens of books, developed new skills, and gained knowledge that influences countless decisions. The other wonders why life feels unchanged. The gap wasn't created by one huge decision. It was created by hundreds of small ones. Many people underestimate habits because they focus only on immediate results. If you skip one workout, nothing dramatic happens. If you eat one unhealthy meal, your health doesn't suddenly collapse. If you waste one evening scrolling through your phone, life continues as usual. The danger lies in repetition. Just as positive habits quietly build a better future, negative habits quietly build one you never intended. Imagine leaving a tiny leak unfixed in your home's roof. At first, it's almost invisible. Months later, water damage begins to spread. Eventually, what started as a small problem becomes an expensive repair. Our daily choices work exactly like that. Small actions accumulate. Fortunately, this works in our favor as well. A daily gratitude practice may take only 5 minutes, but over time it trains your mind to notice opportunities instead of obstacles. Saving a small amount of money every week may seem insignificant, but years later it becomes financial security. Speaking kindly to family members each day strengthens relationships in ways grand gestures never could. One reason habits are so powerful is that they reduce the need for motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Some mornings you'll feel energetic. Others, you'll feel tired. If your success depends entirely on feeling motivated, your progress will always be unpredictable. Habits remove that uncertainty. Think about brushing your teeth. You probably don't wake up every morning debating whether you should do it. You simply do it because it has become part of who you are. Imagine if healthy eating, regular exercise, reading, or practicing gratitude became just as automatic. Life would require less willpower because your routines would carry you forward even when your emotions fluctuate. Another mistake many people make is trying to change everything at once. They decide that tomorrow they'll wake up at 5 in the morning, exercise for an hour, meditate, write in a journal, eat perfectly, learn a new language, and completely reorganize their lives. It sounds exciting. It also rarely lasts. Why? Because enormous changes require enormous energy. Small changes require very little resistance. Suppose you want to become someone who reads more. Instead of committing to 50 pages every night, begin with 5. 5 pages feel almost too easy to fail. Ironically, that's exactly why they work. Small victories create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence encourages consistency. Consistency changes lives. Think of building a brick wall. No one lays an entire wall in a single afternoon by throwing bricks together randomly. Each brick is placed carefully, one at a time. Eventually, the wall stands strong. Not because of one perfect brick, but because of countless ordinary ones. Your future is built exactly the same way. every healthy meal, every honest conversation, every workout, every page you read, every moment you choose growth instead of comfort. Each one is another brick. Individually, they may seem insignificant. Collectively, they become the foundation of a remarkable life. Perhaps the greatest gift of habits is that they gradually shape your identity. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to become healthier," you begin to think, "I'm someone who takes care of my health." Instead of saying, "I'm trying to be organized," you begin to see yourself as an organized person. Our actions reinforce our beliefs about ourselves, and those beliefs influence future actions. It's a positive cycle that becomes stronger with every repetition. Remember, transformation rarely announces itself. It arrives quietly. One morning, you realize climbing the stairs feels easier. One afternoon, someone compliments your calm attitude. One evening, you notice you've handled a stressful situation differently than you would have a year ago. These moments aren't accidents. They're evidence that your habits have been working all along. Reflection. Take a moment to think honestly about your own daily routines. What is one small habit you practice consistently without even thinking about it? Has that habit been moving your life forward or quietly holding you back? If your future reflected your current habits for the next 5 years, would you be excited about where you're headed? What's one tiny change that feels so manageable you could begin today without waiting for the perfect moment? Sometimes the most important question isn't, "How can I change my entire life?" It's, "What's the next small step I can take?" Action step. Today's challenge is simple. Choose one habit that takes less than 5 minutes to complete. It could be reading 2 pages of a book, writing down 3 things you're grateful for, drinking a glass of water after waking up, stretching for 5 minutes, tidying one small area of your home, taking 5 slow, mindful breaths before beginning your workday. Whatever you choose, commit to doing it every day for the next 7 days. Don't worry about perfection. Focus on showing up. Consistency is your only goal. Key takeaways. Small habits create extraordinary results when practiced consistently. Lasting transformation comes from daily choices, not dramatic changes. Consistency matters more than motivation. Tiny improvements build momentum and strengthen your identity. The future you want begins with the habits you choose today. Your life is not shaped only by the biggest decisions you make. More often, it is quietly molded by the smallest promises you keep to yourself. Every positive habit is a vote for the person you're becoming. Now that we've seen why small habits hold such incredible power, an important question naturally follows. If habits are so influential, why do so many people struggle to maintain them? The answer isn't a lack of potential or determination. More often, it's the way we think about change itself. In the next chapter, we'll explore how your mindset can either strengthen your habits or quietly sabotage them, and how shifting your perspective can make lasting change feel far more achievable. Chapter 2. Your mindset shapes your habits. In the previous chapter, we discovered that small daily habits are the building blocks of lasting change. Like tiny drops of water that eventually carve through stone, consistent actions have the power to reshape our lives over time. But this raises an important question. If good habits are so powerful, Why do so many people struggle to keep them? Why do we start strong on Monday, only to lose momentum by Thursday? Why do we make promises to ourselves with complete sincerity, yet somehow find ourselves returning to old patterns? The answer often has less to do with willpower than we think. Beneath every habit lies a way of thinking. Before we act, we believe. Before we change our behavior, we usually need to change the story we tell ourselves. Our mindset quietly influences every decision we make. It determines whether we see challenges as opportunities or obstacles, whether we view mistakes as failures or lessons, and whether we believe growth is possible or reserved for a fortunate few. In this chapter, we'll explore how your mindset becomes the invisible force behind every habit you build. Once you understand this connection, you'll begin to see why lasting transformation starts not only with what you do, but with how you think. Main lesson. Imagine wearing a pair of tinted glasses every day without realizing it. If the lenses are blue, the entire world appears slightly blue. If they're scratched, everything seems distorted. You might assume that's simply what reality looks like because you've never questioned the lens through which you're viewing it. Your mindset works much the same way. It acts as an invisible filter through which you interpret every experience. Suppose two co-workers receive constructive feedback from their manager. One thinks, "I'm terrible at this. I'll never improve." The other thinks, "This shows me exactly what I can work on." The feedback was identical. The outcome won't be. One person walks away discouraged and avoids future challenges. The other walks away motivated, armed with a clearer direction for growth. The difference isn't intelligence or talent. It's perspective. Many of us carry limiting beliefs that formed years ago, sometimes during childhood, sometimes after a painful experience, and sometimes because we compared ourselves to others for too long. Perhaps you've caught yourself saying things like, "I'm just not disciplined. I've never been good with money. I'm too old to start something new. Successful people are different from me." At first glance, these may seem like simple observations. But over time, they become instructions. When you repeatedly tell yourself you're not disciplined, your brain begins looking for evidence to support that belief. You skip a workout and think, "See? That's just who I am." The belief strengthens. The habit weakens. Now imagine changing that inner dialogue. Instead of saying, "I'm not disciplined," you begin saying, "I'm learning to become someone who follows through." Notice the difference. The second statement leaves room for growth. It doesn't pretend you're already perfect. It simply acknowledges that change is possible. This subtle shift can have a remarkable impact on your daily actions. Consider a child learning to ride a bicycle. They wobble. They fall. They scrape a knee. Yet most children climb back on the bike without concluding they're incapable of learning forever. Somewhere along the way, many adults lose that mindset. Instead of seeing mistakes as part of the process, we begin treating them as proof that we shouldn't continue. But think about any meaningful skill you've ever developed. Whether it was driving a car, cooking a new recipe, speaking in front of a group, or learning a new technology, the beginning probably felt uncomfortable. Progress rarely feels graceful at first. Growth often looks messy before it looks impressive. One of the greatest obstacles to building good habits is perfectionism. It whispers that if you can't do something perfectly, there's little point in doing it at all. Miss one workout? You might think the week is ruined. Eat one unhealthy meal? You convince yourself you'll start again next month. Skip reading one evening. The book sits untouched for weeks. Perfectionism creates an all-or-nothing mindset. Real growth doesn't work that way. Imagine drawing a straight line across a page. If your pencil slips slightly for 1 inch, would you crumple the paper and throw it away? Of course not. You simply keep drawing. Life deserves the same patience. Missing one day doesn't erase months of progress. What matters most is returning to the habit instead of abandoning it. Another powerful mindset shift is learning to separate your identity from your temporary performance. Suppose you give a presentation that doesn't go well. You could conclude, "I'm a terrible speaker." Or you could say, "That presentation didn't go as well as I'd hoped. What can I improve next time?" One labels the person. The other evaluates the performance. The difference may seem small, but it's enormous. Your performance changes. Your identity can grow. When you stop defining yourself by isolated moments, you give yourself permission to improve. Let's look at another everyday example. Imagine two neighbors decide to start jogging. After the first week, both feel sore and tired. The first says, "This proves I'm not made for running." The second says, "This discomfort means my body is adapting." 3 months later, who is more likely to still be running? Not necessarily the person with better genetics. The person with the healthier mindset. Mindset also shapes how we respond to setbacks beyond our control. Life will interrupt your routines. You'll have busy weeks, unexpected expenses, family emergencies, moments when motivation disappears. These experiences don't mean you've failed. They simply mean you're human. People who maintain positive habits for years don't avoid difficulties. They learn how to begin again and again. There's quiet strength in refusing to let one difficult day become one difficult month. Think of a tree during a storm. Strong winds may bend its branches, but healthy roots help it remain standing. Your habits are the branches. Your mindset is the root system. Strengthen the roots, and the branches become far more resilient. One practical way to strengthen your mindset is to become more aware of your inner conversations. Pay attention to the words you use when speaking to yourself. Would you speak to a close friend the same way you sometimes speak to yourself? If not, why should you deserve less kindness? Encouragement doesn't mean ignoring your weaknesses. It means believing they're not permanent. Every expert was once a beginner. Every confident person has experienced self-doubt. Every successful journey has included unexpected detours. The people who continue growing aren't the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who refuse to let struggle define them. When you begin seeing challenges as teachers rather than enemies, your habits become easier to sustain because each setback becomes another opportunity to learn instead of another reason to quit. Over time, this mindset transforms not only what you accomplish, but also how you experience life itself. You become less afraid of failure because you understand that progress is rarely a straight line. And that's one of the most freeing realizations you can have. Reflection. Take a quiet moment to think about the conversations you have with yourself. When something doesn't go as planned, what is your first thought? Do you encourage yourself to learn, or do you criticize yourself for falling short? What belief about yourself has been quietly influencing your decisions? If you replace that belief with one that supported growth instead of fear, how might your daily actions begin to change? Remember, lasting change often begins with a single new thought. Action step. Today, write down one limiting belief you've been carrying. Then rewrite it into a growth-focused statement. For example, instead of, "I'm not disciplined," write, "I'm becoming someone who keeps promises to myself." Instead of, "I'm bad with money," write, "I'm learning to make wiser financial decisions every day." Place this new statement somewhere. You'll see it throughout the week, and read it aloud each morning before beginning your day. Key takeaways. Your mindset influences every habit you build. Limiting beliefs often become self-fulfilling unless they're challenged. Progress matters more than perfection. Setbacks are opportunities to learn, not proof of failure. Changing the way you think changes the way you act. The most powerful transformation doesn't begin the day your circumstances change. It begins the moment you stop believing that your past has the final word on your future. A healthy mindset gives us the confidence to grow, but confidence alone isn't enough. Even with the best intentions, our days can easily be consumed by distractions, obligations, and endless demands on our attention. In the next chapter, we'll explore another life-changing habit, learning to protect your time and direct your energy toward what truly matters. Because every meaningful goal depends not only on what you choose to do, but also on what you choose to say no to. Chapter 3. Protect your time, protect your life. Imagine waking up with a bank account that receives exactly $86,400 every morning. There's only one condition. Whatever you don't use by the end of the day disappears forever. You can't save it. You can't earn more. You can't borrow from tomorrow. Most people would think very carefully about how they spent that money. Yet, every single day, each of us receives something even more valuable, 86,400 seconds. Unlike money, time can never be recovered once it's gone. You can earn back lost income. You can rebuild a business. You can replace possessions. But you can never relive yesterday. This chapter isn't about becoming obsessed with productivity or filling every minute with work. It's about recognizing that the way you spend your time is ultimately the way you spend your life. Because every yes to one thing is also a no to something else. When you learn to protect your time, you begin protecting your dreams, your relationships, your health, and your peace of mind. Main lesson. Most people don't intentionally waste time. In fact, if you asked someone whether they wanted to spend hours distracted by social media, television, unnecessary meetings, or endless worrying, they'd probably say no. The challenge isn't that we don't value time. The challenge is that we often underestimate how small moments accumulate. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, half an hour scrolling before bed, a few interruptions throughout the afternoon. Individually, they don't seem significant. Together, they quietly shape our lives. Imagine carrying a small backpack. If someone places one pebble inside, you barely notice. then another, and another. By the end of the day, hundreds of tiny pebbles have become surprisingly heavy. Time works the same way. Tiny distractions become heavy regrets when repeated over months and years. Consider two friends who both say they don't have time to learn a new skill. One spends 30 minutes every evening watching random videos with no real purpose. The other spends those same 30 minutes learning photography, practicing a language, or studying a topic that excites them. Neither decision feels life-changing in a single day. But after 1 year, the second friend has invested more than 180 hours into personal growth. The difference isn't having more time. It's making different choices with the same amount of time. One of the biggest myths about successful people is that they somehow have more hours in the day. They don't. Everyone lives with the same 24 hours. The difference lies in priorities. Think about a jar sitting on a table. Next to it are several large rocks, a handful of pebbles, and a pile of sand. If you pour the sand into the jar first, followed by the pebbles, you'll struggle to fit the large rocks inside. But if you place the large rocks in first, everything else finds its place around them. Life often follows this same pattern. The large rocks represent the things that matter most. Your health, your family, your meaningful work, your personal growth, your rest. The pebbles are responsibilities that matter, but aren't your highest priorities. The sand represents countless small distractions that easily consume your attention if you're not careful. Many people fill their lives with sand first. Then they wonder why there's no room left for what matters most. Ask yourself this question. If someone secretly watched how you spent your time for an entire week, what would they conclude is most important to you? Not based on your intentions, based on your calendar, based on your habits. Sometimes the answers surprise us. Another hidden challenge is the difficulty of saying no. Many of us fear disappointing people. We accept invitations we don't really want. We take on responsibilities that exhaust us. We answer messages immediately, even when we're in the middle of something important. Gradually, our schedule becomes controlled by everyone else's priorities instead of our own. Learning to say no isn't selfish. It's responsible. Imagine a doctor in the middle of performing surgery. If their phone rang every 2 minutes and they stopped to answer every call, we'd question their judgment. Why? Because some work deserves complete attention. Your most meaningful goals deserve that same respect. Every time you protect your focus, you're making an investment in your future. This doesn't mean eliminating all entertainment or relaxation. Rest is essential. In fact, genuine rest often increases productivity. The key difference is intentionality. There's a difference between choosing to spend an hour watching a favorite movie after completing your priorities and accidentally losing 3 hours to endless scrolling without even realizing where the time went. One refreshes you, the other drains you. Have you ever driven somewhere familiar and suddenly realized you don't remember part of the journey? Your brain operated on autopilot. Time often slips away the same way. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Before long, another year has passed. That's why intentional living matters. One helpful habit is beginning each morning by asking a simple question. If I could accomplish only one meaningful thing today, what would it be? Not 10 things. 1. Completing that single priority creates momentum and reduces the feeling of constantly chasing unfinished tasks. Another valuable practice is creating boundaries around your attention. Imagine trying to read a book while someone changes the television channel every 30 seconds. Concentration becomes impossible. Our digital world often creates the same experience. Notifications interrupt conversations. Emails interrupt focused work. Messages interrupt moments of quiet reflection. Each interruption may last only seconds, but regaining deep concentration often takes much longer. Protecting your attention isn't about rejecting technology. It's about using technology intentionally instead of allowing it to use you. There's another important truth about time that many people overlook. The people you love don't measure your care by the number of hours you're physically present. They often remember the quality of your attention. A parent who spends 20 uninterrupted minutes listening to a child may create a stronger memory than to distracted hours spent looking at a phone. A meaningful conversation with a friend can strengthen a relationship more than dozens of quick text messages. Presence is one of the greatest gifts you can offer another person. And it's also one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. When you fully experience the moment you're in, life feels richer. Meals become more enjoyable. Walks become more peaceful. Work becomes more satisfying. Relationships become deeper. Time slows down, not because the clock changes, but because your attention changes. The habit of protecting your time isn't about squeezing more activity into each day. It's about ensuring that your days reflect the life you genuinely want to build. Years from now, you'll probably remember the family dinner where everyone laughed together, the morning walk that gave you clarity, the evening you finally started writing your dream, the conversation that changed your perspective. These moments don't happen by accident. They happen because someone decided they were important enough to make time for. Your calendar is more than a schedule. It's a reflection of your values. And every day, you have the opportunity to rewrite that reflection. Reflection. Pause for a moment and think about yesterday. Where did most of your time go? Which activities brought you closer to the life you want? Which ones quietly pulled you away? If someone looked only at how you spent your time, not what you said was important, what story would your day tell? And what small adjustment could make tomorrow tell a better story? Action step. Today, perform a simple time awareness exercise. For one full day, write down how you spend your time in 30-minute blocks. At the end of the day, review your list and ask yourself, which activities gave me energy? Which activities drained me? Which activities truly mattered? What is one distraction I can reduce tomorrow? Awareness is the first step toward intentional living. Key takeaways. Time is your most valuable and irreplaceable resource. Small daily distractions accumulate into significant lost opportunities. Prioritize what matters most before filling your day with less important tasks. Learning to say no creates space for your biggest goals. Protecting your attention allows you to be more present and purposeful. A meaningful life isn't created by finding more hours in the day. It's created by giving your best hours to the things that matter most. Managing your time well creates space for growth. But what fills that space determines the direction of your life. In the next chapter, we'll explore another powerful habit, becoming a lifelong learner. Because the person you become tomorrow depends greatly on what you choose to learn today. Chapter 4. Never stop learning, the habit that keeps you growing. Think back to when you were a child. Almost everything was new. You asked questions without hesitation. You explored your surroundings with curiosity. Every experience was an opportunity to discover something you didn't know before. Somewhere along the way, many people begin to lose that sense of curiosity. Life becomes busy, responsibilities increase. Work, family, and daily routines fill our schedules. Instead of asking, "What can I learn today?" we often find ourselves asking, "How do I just get through today?" Yet the world never stops changing. New technologies emerge. Industries evolve. Ideas that seemed impossible a decade ago become part of everyday life. The people who continue to grow aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who remain willing to learn. Learning isn't something that ends when school is over. It's a lifelong habit that expands your opportunities, strengthens your confidence, and helps you adapt to whatever life brings your way. In this chapter, we'll explore why continuous learning is one of the most valuable habits you can develop, and how even small moments of curiosity can transform your future. Main lesson. Imagine two trees growing side by side. Both receive the same sunlight. Both experience the same rain. Both stand in the same soil. One tree continues extending its roots deeper into the earth every year. The other stops growing below the surface. From a distance, they may look similar. But when a powerful storm arrives, the difference becomes obvious. The deeper roots provide stability. Learning works much the same way. Knowledge doesn't simply help you perform better when life is easy. It strengthens you when life becomes difficult. Think about someone who unexpectedly loses their job. One person sees only uncertainty. The other has spent years developing new skills, reading widely, and remaining curious about different opportunities. They still face challenges, but they also have more options. Learning doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It prepares you to navigate it. Many people mistakenly believe learning only happens in classrooms. In reality, life offers lessons everywhere. A conversation with a grandparent can teach patience. A mistake at work can teach responsibility. Traveling to a new place can broaden your perspective. Listening carefully to someone with a different opinion can teach empathy. The most successful learners aren't always those with the most formal education. They're the people who remain open to growth. One of the greatest barriers to learning is believing we already know enough. Imagine filling a cup with water. Once it's completely full, nothing more can be added unless some space is made. Our minds can become like that cup. If we assume we already have all the answers, we stop asking questions. When we stop asking questions, we stop growing. Curiosity keeps the mind alive. Have you ever met someone who seems genuinely interested in everything? They ask thoughtful questions. They listen more than they speak. They enjoy discovering how things work. These people often leave conversations with new insights because they're constantly learning from others. Contrast that with someone who believes every discussion is an opportunity to prove they're right. One gains knowledge. The other simply repeats what they already know. Consider a mechanic who has repaired cars for 20 years. If they refuse to learn about modern electric vehicles, their expertise gradually becomes less valuable. Now imagine another mechanic with the same experience who continues attending workshops, watching instructional videos, and practicing new techniques. Years later, their knowledge has expanded instead of becoming outdated. Experience is valuable, but experience combined with continuous learning is even more powerful. Learning also changes the way we see ourselves. When you master a new skill, no matter how small, your confidence grows. Perhaps you've learned to cook a new meal. Maybe you've figured out how to use unfamiliar software. Or perhaps you've overcome your fear of speaking in front of a group. Each success sends your brain an important message. I can learn difficult things. That belief becomes incredibly valuable because it applies far beyond the original skill. The next challenge feels less intimidating because you've already proven your ability to grow. Let's talk about reading for a moment. Reading isn't simply about collecting information. It's about borrowing years of experience from people you've never met. Imagine spending 10 hours solving a problem on your own. Now imagine reading an article or listening to someone who has already solved that same problem. Learning accelerates progress because it allows us to build upon the experiences of others instead of starting from scratch every time. Of course, learning isn't limited to books. Podcasts, documentaries, conversations, online courses, workshops, and personal experiences all contribute to growth. The important habit is remaining teachable. One of the most overlooked teachers in life is failure. Many people do everything possible to avoid making mistakes. But mistakes often contain lessons that success cannot provide. Think about a child learning to walk. No one expects perfection on the first attempt. Falling is understood as part of learning. Adults sometimes forget this. We become embarrassed by mistakes rather than curious about them. Instead of asking, "What can this experience teach me?" we ask, "Why did this happen to me?" The first question leads to growth. The second often leads to frustration. Another powerful aspect of learning is that it increases humility. The more you learn, the more you realize how much there is still to discover. This isn't discouraging. It's exciting. It means life will always offer new opportunities to grow. One practical way to build this habit is to dedicate a small amount of time every day to intentional learning. Remember what we discussed in Chapter 1. Small habits create remarkable results. You don't need to study for 3 hours every evening. Even 15 or 20 focused minutes can make a meaningful difference over time. Imagine learning one useful idea every day. By the end of a year, you've gathered hundreds of new insights. Some will improve your career. Some will strengthen your relationships. Others will simply make life more interesting. Knowledge has a unique quality. Unlike money or possessions, it becomes part of who you are. No one can take away what you've genuinely learned. The more your mind grows, the more possibilities you begin to notice. Problems become puzzles instead of roadblocks. Challenges become opportunities to improve. Uncertainty becomes an invitation to explore rather than a reason to fear. That's the quiet power of lifelong learning. It doesn't merely change what you know. It changes how you experience the world. Reflection. Take a moment to think about your own learning journey. When was the last time you intentionally learned something new? Have you allowed routine to replace curiosity? What skill, subject, or hobby have you always wanted to explore but kept postponing? How might your life be different a year from now if you spent just 20 minutes each day learning something meaningful? Growth begins the moment curiosity returns. Action step. Choose one topic you've always wanted to know more about. Commit to spending 20 minutes each day this week learning about it. You might read a chapter from a book, listen to an educational podcast, watch a high-quality documentary, practice a new skill. Take notes on one lesson you can apply immediately. Don't focus on mastering everything. Focus on becoming just a little wiser than you were yesterday. Key takeaways. Lifelong learning keeps your mind adaptable and resilient. Curiosity opens doors that certainty often closes. Every experience, especially mistakes, contains valuable lessons. Small daily learning sessions create extraordinary long-term growth. Knowledge becomes a permanent asset that expands your opportunities. The moment you believe you've learned everything worth knowing is the moment you stop discovering who you're capable of becoming. Stay curious, because every question you ask has the potential to lead you toward a better version of yourself. Learning gives us new ideas, but ideas alone don't change our lives. What truly shapes our future is what we choose to do with what we've learned. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the most transformative habits of all, taking consistent action. Because knowledge has the greatest impact when it moves from your mind into your daily life. Chapter 5. Take consistent action. Progress begins when you move. Have you ever spent so much time planning something that you never actually started? Maybe you wanted to launch a business, improve your health, learn a new skill, or make a major life change. You researched. You watched videos. You made lists. You waited for the perfect moment. But that moment never seemed to arrive. It's a common experience. Planning feels productive because it gives us a sense of control. We imagine different possibilities, prepare for obstacles, and convince ourselves that we're getting ready to succeed. Preparation has its place. But there comes a point when more planning becomes another form of procrastination. The bridge between dreams and reality has always been the same. Action. Not perfect action. Not fearless action. Just consistent action. In this chapter, we'll discover why taking imperfect but steady steps is far more powerful than waiting for ideal conditions. You'll also learn how momentum can turn even the smallest actions into remarkable achievements over time. Main lesson. Imagine standing beside a bicycle. You examine it carefully. You read the instruction manual. You watch professional cyclists explain the best techniques. You even buy the most comfortable helmet and the latest equipment. But no matter how much you study, you'll never learn to ride until you place your feet on the pedals. The first ride will probably be awkward. You may wobble. You may lose your balance. You may even fall. But each attempt teaches you something that books alone never could. Life works in much the same way. Action is one of life's greatest teachers. Many people wait because they're afraid of making mistakes. They believe successful people always know exactly what they're doing before they begin. The truth is often very different. Most successful people simply become comfortable learning as they go. Think about cooking a recipe you've never tried before. The first attempt may not be perfect. Perhaps you add too much seasoning or leave something in the oven a little too long. The next time, you adjust. Each attempt improves the result. Imagine if you refused to cook until you were guaranteed perfection. You'd spend years reading recipes without ever enjoying a homemade meal. The same principle applies to almost every worthwhile goal. Progress doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from doing something. One reason people hesitate to act is the fear of failure. But failure is often misunderstood. Many people see failure as the opposite of success. In reality, failure is frequently part of the path toward success. Imagine an inventor designing a new product. The first version doesn't work. Neither does the second, or the 10th. Each attempt provides valuable information. Every mistake answers an important question. What should I try differently next time? Without those lessons, improvement would be impossible. Failure isn't always evidence that you're moving in the wrong direction. Sometimes it's evidence that you're moving at all. Another obstacle is comparing our beginning to someone else's middle. Suppose you decide to learn photography. You open social media and immediately see breathtaking images taken by professionals with years of experience. Instead of feeling inspired, you feel discouraged. You think, "I'll never be that good." But you're comparing your first chapter to someone else's 20th. Every expert started as a beginner. Every accomplished musician once struggled with simple notes. Every skilled athlete once practiced basic movements. Every confident speaker once felt nervous before stepping onto a stage. Growth takes time. The important thing is to keep moving. There's another benefit to action that many people overlook. Action creates clarity. Imagine driving through dense fog. You may only see 30 meters ahead. If you refuse to move until you can see the entire road, you'll remain parked forever. But as you drive forward, the next stretch of road becomes visible. Life often works this way. You don't need to know every step before you begin. You only need enough clarity to take the next one. Many opportunities reveal themselves only after you've started. Momentum is another powerful force. Have you ever noticed how difficult it is to push a stationary car? The first few inches require tremendous effort. Once the car begins moving, maintaining that movement becomes much easier. Habits operate in the same way. Starting is usually the hardest part. Once you're in motion, continuing feels far less difficult. That's why one of the best strategies is to make starting incredibly easy. Want to exercise? Tell yourself you'll do just 5 minutes. Want to write? Commit to 1 paragraph. Want to organize your home? Begin with a single drawer. Very often, starting is enough to keep you going. Even if you stop after those 5 minutes, you've reinforced the habit of taking action. And that habit becomes stronger each time you repeat it. Action also builds confidence. Many people believe confidence comes first. They think, once I feel confident, I'll start. In reality, confidence usually comes afterward. You become confident because you've practiced, because you've improved, because you've survived challenges you once thought impossible. Confidence is earned through experience, not imagined through wishful thinking. Think back to the first time you drove a car, gave a presentation, or tried something unfamiliar. You probably felt uncertain. Now those same activities may feel almost routine. The difference wasn't luck. It was repetition. Let's also remember that not every action produces immediate rewards. Imagine planting an orchard. You water the trees. You care for the soil. You remove weeds. For quite some time, there may be no fruit. Does that mean your work has been wasted? Of course not. Growth is taking place beneath the surface. Many worthwhile goals follow this pattern. The effort comes first. The visible results often arrive later. People who succeed over the long term understand this principle. They don't allow temporary silence to convince them that progress isn't happening. They trust the process enough to keep showing up. Perhaps the most encouraging truth about action is this. You don't need extraordinary talent to begin. You don't need unlimited resources. You don't need perfect timing. You simply need the courage to take the next small step. That single step may not change your life overnight, but it changes the direction you're moving. And direction, repeated consistently, eventually becomes destiny. Reflection. Take a moment to think about a goal you've been postponing. Why haven't you started? Is it because you truly lack the ability? Or because you're waiting to feel completely ready? What's one small action you could take today that would move you just a little closer to that goal? Remember, progress begins with movement, not perfection. Action step. Choose one goal you've been delaying. Now reduce the first step until it feels almost impossible to avoid. For example, write the first 100 words instead of an entire chapter. Walk for 10 minutes instead of committing to an hour at the gym. Save a small amount of money instead of worrying about a large investment. Make one phone call you've been putting off. When you've completed that small action, take a moment to acknowledge your progress. You're not celebrating perfection. You're celebrating the habit of showing up. Key takeaways. Action is the bridge between intention and achievement. Waiting for perfect conditions often leads to unnecessary delays. Mistakes are valuable teachers, not permanent labels. Small actions create momentum that makes future progress easier. Confidence grows through consistent action, not before it. A dream remains a dream until it's matched with action. The smallest step forward will always carry you farther than the most perfect plan left untouched. Taking action moves you closer to your goals. But there's another habit that determines whether your success will be meaningful and sustainable. In the next chapter, we'll explore the habit of cultivating gratitude, a practice that doesn't just change how you see your life, but also changes how you experience it. You'll discover that true fulfillment comes not only from achieving more, but from learning to appreciate the journey along the way. Chapter 6. Practice Gratitude, the habit that changes how you see life. Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that the only things you still have are the things you were grateful for today. Would your home still be there? Would the people you love still be by your side? Would your health, your opportunities, your friendships, or even the simple comfort of a warm meal remain? It's a thought-provoking question because gratitude has a way of revealing what we often overlook. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to become focused on what's missing. We chase the next promotion, the next achievement, the next purchase, or the next milestone. We tell ourselves that once we reach that destination, we'll finally feel happy. But something curious often happens. We arrive at one goal, celebrate briefly, and almost immediately begin chasing another. There's nothing wrong with ambition. In fact, healthy ambition helps us grow. The problem begins when we postpone happiness until everything is perfect. Gratitude teaches us a different way to live. It reminds us that while we continue building a better future, we don't have to ignore the goodness that's already present today. In this chapter, you'll discover how practicing gratitude can improve your mindset, strengthen your relationships, reduce stress, and help you find joy in the ordinary moments that quietly shape an extraordinary life. Main lesson. Imagine carrying a camera everywhere you go. But this camera has an unusual setting. It automatically focuses on everything that's wrong. Cracked sidewalks, cloudy skies, long lines, mistakes, disappointments. If every photo highlighted only flaws, you'd eventually begin believing the world itself was mostly negative. Our minds can work the same way. Human beings naturally pay close attention to problems because our brains evolved to notice potential dangers. This tendency can be useful. It helps us recognize risks and solve challenges. But if we never intentionally notice what's going well, our perspective becomes unbalanced. Gratitude gently restores that balance. It doesn't deny difficulties. It simply reminds us that difficulties are not the whole story. Think about two co-workers leaving the office after a demanding day. Both experienced the same meetings. Both handled similar responsibilities. Both dealt with unexpected problems. On the drive home, one person thinks only about the frustrations. The other remembers the helpful colleague who offered support, the project that finally came together, and the quiet satisfaction of doing meaningful work. Neither person is ignoring reality. They're simply choosing where to place their attention. Over time, that choice shapes how they experience life. Gratitude is not pretending everything is perfect. It's recognizing that even imperfect days contain moments worth appreciating. Consider a rainy afternoon. A child may run outside, splash through puddles, and laugh without worrying about the inconvenience. An adult might focus only on traffic, wet shoes, and delayed plans. The rain hasn't changed. The perspective has. One of the greatest gifts of gratitude is that it helps us slow down. Modern life often encourages us to rush from one task to another. Finish breakfast. Answer emails. Attend meetings. Complete errands. Prepare dinner. Go to sleep. Repeat. Days blur together. Weeks disappear. Months pass before we realize how quickly time is moving. Gratitude interrupts that cycle. It asks us to pause, to notice, to appreciate. Perhaps it's the warmth of sunlight coming through your window, the laughter of someone you love, a stranger holding the door open, the smell of fresh coffee. the satisfaction of completing a task you've been avoiding. These moments are easy to overlook because they don't demand our attention. Yet they often become the memories we treasure most. Gratitude also strengthens relationships. Think about the last time someone sincerely thanked you for something you did. Maybe it was a co-worker who appreciated your help, a friend who noticed your kindness, or a family member who acknowledged your support. How did that make you feel? Most likely, it made you feel seen, valued, appreciated. Now imagine offering that same gift to others more often. Sometimes we assume people already know how much they mean to us. But appreciation that's never expressed remains unheard. A simple thank you. I appreciate you. I'm glad you're in my life. These words may take only seconds to say, yet they can leave a lasting impression. Gratitude isn't only about receiving. It's also about giving. There's another surprising benefit. Gratitude can make difficult seasons more bearable. Notice that I didn't say it removes hardship. Life will still bring disappointment. There will still be losses, setbacks, and uncertainty. Gratitude doesn't erase pain. It helps prevent pain from becoming the only thing we see. Imagine hiking through a dense forest. Some sections are dark and steep. Others open into beautiful clearings filled with sunlight. If you focused only on the difficult stretches, you'd miss much of the journey's beauty. Life is similar. Even during challenging seasons, moments of hope continue to exist. A supportive friend, a lesson learned, a quiet moment of peace. The strength you didn't know you possessed until circumstances required it. Gratitude helps us recognize these moments without pretending the challenges aren't real. One practical way to develop this habit is to end each day by asking yourself a simple question. What are 3 good things that happened today? They don't need to be extraordinary. Perhaps someone smiled at you. Maybe you finished a book. Maybe you enjoyed a delicious meal. Or perhaps you simply made it through a difficult day with courage. Over time, your brain begins looking for these moments naturally. It's as though you've adjusted the camera's focus. Instead of seeing only what's missing, you begin noticing what's already present. Gratitude also changes how we pursue success. Without gratitude, success often feels like a moving target. No matter how much we accomplish, it never seems enough. With gratitude, ambition becomes healthier. We continue striving for improvement while appreciating how far we've already come. Imagine climbing a mountain. You look up and see there's still a long way to go. That's important. It keeps you moving. But occasionally, you also turn around and notice how high you've already climbed. That perspective gives you encouragement. Both views matter. Looking ahead inspires growth. Looking back inspires gratitude. The happiest people aren't necessarily those with the easiest lives. More often, they're the ones who have learned to recognize the value hidden within ordinary moments. They understand that joy isn't found only at the finish line. It's woven throughout the journey. And once you begin noticing it, you'll realize that many of life's greatest blessings have been quietly surrounding you all along. Reflection. Take a moment to pause. What are 3 things in your life that you appreciate but don't acknowledge often enough? Who has made a positive difference in your life recently? When was the last time you told them? Are you spending more time thinking about what's missing or appreciating what's already present? How might your days feel different if gratitude became a daily habit instead of an occasional thought? Action step. Tonight, before you go to bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for. For each one, write a single sentence explaining why it mattered to you. If one of those blessings is a person, send them a short message expressing your appreciation. Don't wait for a special occasion. Sometimes the most meaningful words are the ones spoken on an ordinary day. Key takeaways. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to appreciation. Happiness grows when you notice the good that's already in your life. Expressing appreciation strengthens relationships. Gratitude helps you remain hopeful during difficult seasons. Small moments of thankfulness create a richer, more meaningful life. Gratitude doesn't ask you to ignore the road still ahead. It simply reminds you not to overlook the beauty of the ground you've already covered. Over the past 6 chapters, we've explored habits that strengthen your mindset, protect your time, expand your knowledge, encourage consistent action, and help you appreciate the life you're building. Now it's time to pause for a moment, not to stop growing, but to recognize how far you've already come together. Before we continue into the second half of this audiobook, I'd like to share a brief message with you. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you. In a world full of distractions, choosing to spend your time investing in your personal growth is something to be proud of. I hope these lessons have already given you ideas you can apply in your own life. If you're enjoying this audiobook and finding value in these conversations, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to like this video. It helps more people discover these lessons and supports the continued creation of motivational audiobooks like this one. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel so you won't miss future audiobooks focused on personal growth, resilience, success, and living a more intentional life. And if someone came to mind while listening, perhaps a friend, family member, or co-worker who could benefit from these ideas, please share this audiobook with them. Sometimes a single lesson arrives at exactly the right moment in someone's life. Finally, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us your biggest takeaway so far. Which chapter has resonated with you the most? Your insight might encourage someone else on their own journey. Thank you again for being here. Now, let's continue with Chapter 7, where we'll discover one final habit that ties everything together and helps turn temporary motivation into lifelong transformation. Chapter 7. Build meaningful relationships. Success is better when shared. Imagine trying to build a house with only one tool. No matter how skilled you are, the job becomes far more difficult than it needs to be. Life is similar. No one succeeds entirely alone. Behind every achievement, there are often people who offered encouragement, shared knowledge, provided opportunities, or simply believed in someone during a difficult season. Yet in a world that celebrates individual success, it's easy to overlook the quiet power of meaningful relationships. Many people spend years improving their careers, building financial security, and developing new skills, only to realize that success feels incomplete without people to celebrate it with. The truth is, the quality of your life is deeply connected to the quality of your relationships. The conversations you have, the people you spend time with, the encouragement you give, the kindness you receive. These moments shape your character just as much as any habit or achievement. In this chapter, we'll explore why building strong, genuine relationships is one of the most life-changing habits you can develop, and how small acts of connection can create a lifetime of meaningful impact. Main lesson. Picture a campfire on a cool evening. As long as the logs remain together, the fire burns brightly, giving warmth and light to everyone nearby. Now imagine taking one burning log and placing it several feet away from the others. At first, it still glows. But gradually, the flame grows weaker until only a few glowing embers remain. The log didn't suddenly become different. It simply lost the support of the fire around it. People are much the same. We all need connection. Even the most independent person benefits from encouragement, honest feedback, and genuine companionship. One of the greatest misconceptions about relationships is that they depend on finding the right people. While surrounding yourself with positive influences certainly matters, meaningful relationships begin with becoming the kind of person others enjoy being around. Think about the qualities you admire in others. Perhaps it's honesty, kindness, reliability, the ability to listen without interrupting, a willingness to celebrate someone else's success without jealousy. These qualities aren't just attractive, they're habits. And like any habit, they become stronger through consistent practice. Imagine two neighbors. One only speaks when they need a favor. The other regularly smiles, asks how the day is going, and offers help whenever possible. Years later, which neighbor is more likely to have built trust and lasting friendships? Relationships rarely grow through grand gestures alone. More often, they're strengthened through ordinary moments repeated consistently. A short phone call, a thoughtful message, remembering someone's birthday, checking in after a difficult week, listening without rushing to give advice. These small actions tell people something powerful. You matter. Another important lesson is learning to truly listen. Many conversations today aren't really conversations. They're waiting contests. One person speaks while the other silently prepares their response. But genuine listening is different. Imagine talking with someone who gives you their full attention. They aren't looking at their phone. They aren't interrupting. They ask thoughtful questions because they genuinely want to understand. How does that make you feel? Most people would say they feel respected, seen, valued. Listening is one of the simplest ways to strengthen a relationship because it communicates care without requiring perfect words. There's another side to healthy relationships as well. Choosing your environment wisely. Imagine placing a healthy plant in poor soil. Even with sunlight and water, its growth becomes difficult. Now place that same plant in rich soil with proper care. Its potential begins to unfold. Our environment influences us in similar ways. The attitudes, habits, and values of the people around us quietly affect our own. If you're constantly surrounded by negativity, criticism, or discouragement, maintaining a positive outlook becomes much harder. On the other hand, spending time with people who encourage growth, integrity, and kindness often inspires those same qualities within you. This doesn't mean distancing yourself from everyone who struggles. Everyone experiences difficult seasons. The difference lies in whether someone is moving toward growth or choosing to remain trapped in negativity. Healthy relationships encourage both honesty and hope. Conflict is another unavoidable part of relationships. No two people agree on everything. Misunderstandings happen. Expectations differ. Words are sometimes spoken in frustration. The goal isn't to eliminate conflict. It's to handle it with maturity. Imagine a crack appearing in a sidewalk. If it's repaired early, the fix is usually simple. Ignored for years, it becomes a much larger problem. Relationships work the same way. Addressing misunderstandings with honesty and respect often prevents deeper hurt later on. Forgiveness also plays an essential role. Holding on to resentment is like carrying a heavy backpack long after the journey has ended. The weight doesn't affect only the person who hurt you. It affects you as well. Forgiveness doesn't always mean forgetting. It doesn't excuse harmful behavior. And it doesn't require rebuilding every relationship. Sometimes forgiveness simply means choosing not to let past pain control your future. One of the most rewarding aspects of meaningful relationships is that they multiply joy. Think about receiving wonderful news. Perhaps you achieved an important goal. Maybe someone you love celebrated a milestone. What's your first instinct? For most people, it's to share the moment with someone else. Joy grows when it's shared. Interestingly, burdens often become lighter when they're shared as well. During difficult seasons, a supportive conversation may not solve every problem, but it reminds us we don't have to face those problems alone. Finally, remember that meaningful relationships require time. Just as we discussed in Chapter 3, what you give your time to grows. If you invest only in work while neglecting family and friendships, success may eventually feel lonely. A short conversation over dinner, an evening walk with someone you care about, a handwritten note, a few uninterrupted minutes with your child. These moments may seem ordinary today. Years from now, they often become the memories people cherish most. At the end of life, very few people wish they had spent more time checking emails or worrying about things beyond their control. Many wish they had spent more time with the people they love. That realization isn't meant to create regret. It's meant to offer perspective. You still have today. You still have opportunities to strengthen the relationships that matter most. And those investments often produce returns far greater than anything money can buy. Reflection. Think about the people who have had the greatest positive influence on your life. What qualities made those relationships meaningful? Now consider your own relationships. Is there someone you've been meaning to reconnect with? Someone you've taken for granted? Someone who simply needs to know they're appreciated? What small act of kindness could you offer today that might strengthen one of your most important relationships? Action step. Reach out to one person today. Send a heartfelt message. Make a phone call, or meet them in person. Don't ask for anything. Simply thank them for the role they've played in your life or let them know you're thinking of them. Focus on being fully present during the conversation. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is your undivided attention. Key takeaways. Meaningful relationships are built through consistent care and attention. Listening is one of the most powerful ways to show respect and compassion. Your environment influences your habits, mindset, and personal growth. Healthy relationships require honesty, forgiveness, and intentional effort. Success becomes more fulfilling when it's shared with others. A rich life isn't measured only by what you've accomplished. It's also measured by the lives you've touched, the trust you've earned, and the people who are grateful that you were part of their journey. Strong relationships provide encouragement and support. But even with the best people around us, life will still bring unexpected challenges. In the next chapter, we'll explore one of the most important qualities for lasting success: resilience. Because it's not the absence of difficulties that shapes your future, it's the way you choose to respond when difficulties arrive. Chapter 8. Develop resilience. Turn setbacks into stepping stones. Imagine walking along a beach after a powerful storm. The waves have reshaped the shoreline. Branches lie scattered across the sand. Footprints that were there the day before have completely disappeared. Nature reminds us of something important. Change is inevitable. Storms come. Some are gentle, passing almost unnoticed. Others arrive unexpectedly, leaving us wondering how we'll move forward. Life has storms too. A lost opportunity. A financial setback. The end of a relationship. A business that doesn't succeed. A dream that takes longer than expected. No one is exempt from disappointment. The difference isn't whether challenges appear. The difference is how we respond when they do. Some people allow setbacks to convince them that the journey is over. Others use those same setbacks as reasons to grow stronger, wiser, and more determined. That ability is called resilience. It's not about pretending life is easy. It's about believing that difficult moments don't have to define the rest of your story. In this chapter, we'll explore how resilience is built, not through extraordinary moments of courage, but through ordinary choices made during life's hardest seasons. Main lesson. Imagine a bamboo tree growing underground. For years, very little appears above the surface. If someone walked by every day, they might assume nothing was happening. But beneath the soil, an extensive root system is quietly developing. Then, when the time is right, the bamboo begins to grow rapidly. Its strength didn't appear overnight. It was built long before anyone could see it. Resilience develops in much the same way. It's easy to admire someone who remains calm during a crisis. What we often don't see are the years of experiences, lessons, failures, and quiet perseverance that prepared them for that moment. Resilience is rarely born in comfort. It grows through challenge. Think back to a time when something didn't go according to plan. Perhaps you applied for a job and didn't get it. Maybe you invested time in a project that failed. Or perhaps life simply took a direction you never expected. At the time, it probably felt discouraging. But looking back now, did you learn something valuable? Many people discover that their greatest periods of growth began with situations they never would have chosen. That's because adversity has a unique way of revealing strengths we didn't know we possessed. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The metal is heated until it glows. Then it's struck repeatedly with a hammer. To someone unfamiliar with the process, it might look destructive. In reality, every strike is shaping the blade into something stronger. Life often works in similar ways. Challenges don't always weaken us. Sometimes they refine us. Of course, resilience doesn't mean ignoring pain. When something difficult happens, it's natural to feel disappointed, frustrated, or even heartbroken. Real resilience allows space for those emotions. It simply refuses to stay trapped there forever. Consider someone training for a marathon. There will be days when the run feels effortless. There will also be days when every step feels heavy. The runner doesn't conclude they're incapable simply because one training session was difficult. They understand that progress includes both good days and challenging ones. Your personal growth follows the same pattern. One difficult week doesn't erase months of progress. One mistake doesn't cancel years of learning. One setback doesn't determine your future. Another important part of resilience is learning to separate events from identity. Suppose a small business owner launches a new product that doesn't sell well. They have two choices. They can think, "I failed, so I must be a failure." Or they can think, "This attempt didn't succeed. What can I improve before trying again?" The first mindset creates discouragement. The second creates opportunity. Notice that the event remains the same. Only the interpretation changes. Resilient people ask better questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can this experience teach me?" Instead of saying, "Everything is ruined," they ask, "What's the next step I can take?" These questions don't magically remove problems. They simply direct attention towards solutions instead of helplessness. Let's also talk about patience. We live in a world that celebrates instant results. Food arrives within minutes. Information appears in seconds. Messages travel across the world almost instantly. It's easy to expect personal growth to happen just as quickly. But meaningful change still follows the rhythm of nature. A seed cannot become a tree overnight. A child doesn't become an adult in a week. Strong character develops over years of choices, experiences, and perseverance. Patience isn't passive. It's active trust that today's effort is contributing to tomorrow's growth. Another overlooked source of resilience is perspective. Imagine looking at a single puzzle piece. By itself, it doesn't reveal much. Now imagine stepping back and seeing the completed picture. Suddenly, that small piece makes sense. Life often feels like we're holding one puzzle piece at a time. We don't always understand why something happened. We can't always see where the path is leading. But as time passes, many experiences begin to fit together in ways we couldn't have predicted. This doesn't mean everything happens for a specific reason we can immediately understand. It simply means today's challenge doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. Sometimes our greatest breakthroughs begin as our greatest disappointments. Resilience also grows through community. Remember what we discussed in the previous chapter. You don't have to face every challenge alone. Asking for advice isn't weakness. Accepting encouragement isn't weakness. Allowing trusted people to support you isn't weakness. In fact, it often takes more courage to ask for help than to pretend everything is fine. Think about climbing a steep mountain. Even experienced climbers rely on ropes, teammates, and guides. Not because they're incapable, Because they understand that support increases strength. Life works the same way. Finally, resilient people understand one simple but powerful truth. Every sunrise offers another opportunity to begin again. Yesterday's mistakes don't prevent today's progress. Last month's disappointment doesn't eliminate next month's possibilities. As long as you're willing to keep learning, adapting, and moving forward, your story is still being written. You may not control every chapter, but you always have a voice in how the next one begins. Reflection. Think about one challenge you've overcome in the past. At the time, it probably felt overwhelming. Yet here you are. What strengths did that experience reveal? What lesson did it leave behind? Now consider a challenge you're facing today. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" ask yourself, "What kind of person is this experience helping me become?" Sometimes changing the question changes everything. Action step. Create a resilience journal. Write down one challenge you're currently facing. Then answer these 3 questions. What is within my control? What can I learn from this situation? What is one small step I can take today? Whenever you face a setback, return to these questions before reacting emotionally. Over time, this practice will help train your mind to look for growth instead of defeat. Key takeaways. Resilience is built through challenges, not the absence of them. Setbacks are temporary events, not permanent identities. Asking better questions leads to better responses. Patience allows growth to unfold at its natural pace. Every difficult experience has the potential to strengthen your character. The strongest trees are not the ones that never faced the wind. They are the ones that learned, season after season, how to remain rooted while continuing to grow. Resilience helps you recover when life knocks you down, but lasting fulfillment requires more than simply overcoming obstacles. In the next chapter, we'll explore the importance of living with purpose. Because when your daily actions are connected to a meaningful why, even ordinary moments become part of something much greater than yourself. Chapter 9. Live with purpose. Let your why guide your life. Imagine setting out on a long journey without a destination. You have a reliable vehicle, plenty of fuel, a detailed map, but no idea where you're trying to go. At first, the freedom might feel exciting. You drive wherever the road takes you. But after a while, something changes. The miles begin to feel empty because movement without direction rarely brings fulfillment. Life can feel the same way. Many people stay busy every day. Their calendars are full. Their responsibilities are endless. They work hard, solve problems, and cross tasks off their lists. Yet deep inside, they wonder, is this all there is? It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're ungrateful. It's because human beings don't simply need activity. We need meaning. Purpose gives ordinary actions extraordinary significance. It reminds us why our efforts matter, especially on the days when motivation is low and progress feels slow. In this chapter, we'll explore how discovering and living with purpose can transform the way you approach your work, your relationships, and your daily habits. Main lesson. Imagine 2 people laying bricks on a construction site. A passerby asks the first worker, "What are you doing?" The worker replies, I'm laying bricks. The passerby asks the second worker the same question. The second smiles and says, I'm helping build a place where families will create memories for generations. Both workers are performing the same task, but they're living completely different experiences. The difference is purpose. Purpose changes the meaning of ordinary work. Think about a teacher preparing tomorrow's lesson. To someone else, it may look like grading papers and writing notes. To the teacher, it may be another opportunity to inspire a child who has yet to discover their potential. Or consider a parent preparing dinner after a long day. The meal may seem routine, but behind that simple act is something much greater, a desire to care for the people they love. Purpose often hides inside ordinary moments. We don't always find it through dramatic events. Sometimes we uncover it by recognizing the value of what we're already doing. Many people believe purpose is something they suddenly discover. They imagine waking up one morning with absolute clarity about their life's mission. For a few people, that happens. For most of us, purpose develops gradually. It grows through experience, curiosity, service, learning, and paying attention to what gives us a sense of meaning. Imagine walking through a forest trail at sunrise. The path ahead is partially hidden by trees. You don't see the entire journey, but with every few steps, more of the trail becomes visible. Purpose often unfolds in the same way. You don't need every answer before taking the next step. You simply need the willingness to keep moving. One powerful clue to purpose is asking yourself, when do I feel most alive? Perhaps it's when you're solving problems, helping others, creating something new, teaching, learning, building, encouraging, listening. Everyone's answer is different. That's what makes purpose personal. Another helpful question is, what kind of impact do I want to leave behind? Imagine attending your own retirement celebration many years from now. People stand to share stories about your life. What would you hope they say? Would they remember your kindness, your integrity, your generosity, your courage, your ability to help others believe in themselves? Very few people wish to be remembered only for being busy. Most hope to be remembered for making a positive difference. Purpose also helps us endure difficult seasons. Think about a lighthouse standing along a rocky coastline. Storms crash against it. Strong winds shake it. Massive waves surround it. Yet the light continues shining because it knows its purpose. Likewise, when your actions are connected to a meaningful reason, temporary obstacles lose much of their power to discourage you. Consider someone training to become a nurse. The long hours of study can feel exhausting. The exams are stressful. The schedule is demanding. But remembering the lives they hope to care for gives those sacrifices meaning. Purpose transforms inconvenience into investment. This doesn't mean every day feels exciting. Even meaningful work includes routine tasks. A musician still practices scales. A writer still edits drafts. An athlete still completes repetitive training sessions. Purpose doesn't remove discipline. It gives discipline direction. There's another important aspect of living with purpose. It often involves serving something beyond yourself. Think about the happiest people you've met. Chances are, many of them spent time helping others in some way. Perhaps they volunteered, mentored someone, supported a friend, raised a family with love, built a business that improved people's lives. Purpose tends to expand when we recognize that our actions can positively affect those around us. This doesn't require changing the entire world. Sometimes changing one person's day is enough. A kind conversation, a thoughtful compliment, sharing knowledge, offering encouragement. Small acts of service often create ripple effects we'll never fully see. Imagine throwing a pebble into a calm lake. The splash lasts only a moment, but the ripples travel much farther than the point where the stone entered the water. Kindness works the same way. You may never know how deeply your words or actions influence another person. But that doesn't mean they don't matter. Purpose also requires regular reflection. Life changes. Priorities evolve. What felt meaningful 10 years ago may not be exactly what inspires you today. That's perfectly normal. Purpose isn't a destination you reach once and never revisit. It's a relationship you continue developing throughout life. Every season teaches you something new about who you are and what matters most. Perhaps the greatest gift of purpose is that it keeps success in perspective. Without purpose, achievement can become an endless race. There's always another goal, another milestone, another comparison. With purpose, success becomes less about proving your worth and more about expressing your values. You stop asking, "How much can I get?" and begin asking, "How much good can I do with what I've been given?" That shift changes everything. Because a purposeful life isn't measured only by accomplishments. It's measured by contribution. And contribution leaves a legacy that extends far beyond our own lifetime. Reflection. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what activities make me lose track of time because I enjoy them so much? Who benefits most when I use my strengths? If I looked back on my life many years from now, what would I be most proud of? And perhaps the most important question of all. Am I simply filling my days, or am I filling them with meaning? Action step. Set aside 15 minutes today with a notebook. Write the heading, "The Life I Want to Build." Then answer these 3 questions. What values matter most to me? How do I want people to remember me? What is one small action I can take this week that reflects those values? Don't worry about creating a perfect life plan. Focus on taking one purposeful step. Purpose becomes clearer through action. Key takeaways. Purpose gives direction to your daily habits and long-term goals. Meaning is often found in ordinary acts done with intention. Your purpose unfolds through experience, growth, and service. Living according to your values creates a more fulfilling life. Small acts of kindness and contribution leave lasting impact. A meaningful life isn't built by chasing every opportunity. It's built by choosing the opportunities that align with who you want to become and the difference you hope to make. Purpose gives us direction, but direction alone isn't enough. Even when we know where we want to go, there will be moments when fear, uncertainty, and self-doubt try to hold us back. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to move forward despite those fears, and why courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision that something else matters more. Chapter 10. Choose courage over comfort. Growth begins beyond the familiar. Imagine standing at the edge of a calm lake. The water near the shore is warm, shallow, and familiar. You know exactly what to expect because you've been there countless times before. But farther out, the water becomes deeper. The view changes. New possibilities begin to appear. The problem is that reaching those possibilities requires leaving the comfort of the shoreline. Life presents us with this choice more often than we realize. Should you apply for the position that feels slightly beyond your qualifications? Should you start the business you've been thinking about for years? Should you speak up about an idea that could improve your workplace? Should you have the difficult conversation you've been avoiding? Comfort whispers, stay where it's safe. Courage quietly replies, growth lives on the other side. It's important to understand that courage doesn't mean feeling fearless. Even the most confident people experience uncertainty. The difference is that they don't allow fear to make every decision for them. In this chapter, we'll explore how courage is built through small daily choices and how stepping outside your comfort zone can unlock opportunities you never imagined possible. Main lesson. Imagine a bird standing on a tree branch. Is the bird confident because the branch will never break? Not necessarily. The bird is confident because it trusts its own wings. That's an important distinction. Many of us spend our lives trying to eliminate every possible risk before taking action. We wait until the economy feels more stable, until we have more experience, until we feel completely confident, until every detail is certain. But life rarely offers complete certainty. Waiting for perfect conditions often means waiting forever. Courage begins when we accept that uncertainty is part of every meaningful journey. Think back to the first day of school. For many children, it feels intimidating. Everything is unfamiliar. New teachers, new classmates, new expectations. Yet within a few weeks, what once felt overwhelming becomes normal. Nothing magical happened. The child simply became familiar with what was once uncomfortable. This is how growth works throughout life. Today's discomfort often becomes tomorrow's confidence. One reason people remain stuck is because the comfort zone feels comfortable. There's nothing inherently wrong with comfort. After all, rest and stability are important. The problem begins when comfort becomes a permanent address instead of a temporary resting place. Imagine an athlete who decides they've become strong enough and no longer needs to train. For a short time, they may maintain their abilities. Eventually, however, those abilities begin to decline. Growth requires challenge. Muscles become stronger by working against resistance. Skills improve through practice. Character develops through adversity. Our lives follow the same principle. Let's consider another example. Suppose you've always wanted to learn public speaking. The idea of standing before an audience makes your heart race. Your first instinct might be to avoid it altogether. That avoidance brings temporary relief. But it also keeps the fear alive. Now imagine taking one small step instead. You speak during a team meeting. Later, you volunteer to give a short presentation. Months later, you're confidently addressing larger groups. The fear didn't disappear overnight. It became smaller each time you faced it. That's the quiet power of courage. It grows through repetition. Fear also has an interesting habit of exaggerating. Have you ever worried about something for days, only to discover it wasn't nearly as bad as you imagined? Our minds often create worst-case scenarios. We picture embarrassment, failure, rejection, disappointment. Sometimes those things happen. More often, they don't happen exactly as we feared. Even when they do, we usually discover we're far more capable of handling them than we expected. Think about learning to swim. At first, stepping into deep water feels intimidating. But with guidance, practice, and patience, confidence grows. Eventually, the same water that once seemed frightening becomes enjoyable. The water didn't change. You did. The same is true of many challenges in life. Another important lesson is understanding that courage isn't always dramatic. Sometimes courage looks like asking for help. Sometimes it means admitting you made a mistake. Sometimes it's choosing forgiveness when resentment feels easier. Sometimes it's beginning again after a setback. The world often celebrates bold, visible acts of courage. But quiet courage shapes lives every single day. There's also a difference between reckless action and courageous action. Imagine climbing a mountain. A reckless climber ignores the weather, refuses equipment, and dismisses advice. A courageous climber prepares carefully, respects the risks, and climbs anyway. Courage doesn't ignore reality. It responds wisely despite uncertainty. As we've explored throughout this audiobook, preparation matters. Learning matters. Planning matters. But eventually, preparation must give way to action. Otherwise, preparation becomes another form of hiding. One of the most encouraging truths about courage is that it inspires others. When someone sees you pursuing a goal despite uncertainty, speaking honestly with kindness, or continuing after a setback, they begin to believe they can do the same. Courage is contagious. A parent who models perseverance teaches children resilience. A leader who admits mistakes creates a culture of trust. A friend who shares their struggles honestly gives others permission to do the same. Your courage may become someone else's encouragement. Let's also remember that every meaningful life includes moments of risk. Falling in love requires vulnerability. Starting a business requires uncertainty. Changing careers requires faith. Moving to a new city requires adaptability. No worthwhile journey comes with guarantees. But every worthwhile journey offers opportunities to grow. Imagine looking back on your life many years from now. Which regrets do you think would weigh more heavily? The risks you took that didn't work out? Or the opportunities you never pursued because fear convinced you to stay where you were? Many people discover that the greatest regrets aren't about failure. They're about hesitation. The conversations never started. The dreams never explored. The talents never developed. The chance is never taken. That's why courage matters. Not because it guarantees success, but because it ensures you'll never wonder what might have happened if you'd been willing to try. The habit of choosing courage over comfort doesn't require giant leaps every day. It simply asks you to take one step beyond what's familiar. One honest conversation. One application. One new skill. One opportunity. One act of faith. Over time, those small courageous decisions reshape your life in ways comfort never could. Reflection. Think about one area of your life where fear has been making decisions for you. What opportunity have you been postponing because it feels uncomfortable? If you knew you couldn't fail permanently, only learn, what would you choose to do? What's one courageous step you could take this week that your future self would thank you for? Remember, courage doesn't eliminate fear. It simply refuses to let fear have the final word. Action step. Choose one task you've been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable. Break it down into the smallest possible first step. Then complete that step within the next 24 hours. Don't judge the outcome. Celebrate the decision to act despite uncertainty. Each time you do this, you're strengthening your courage muscle. Key takeaways. Courage is acting despite fear, not waiting for fear to disappear. Growth happens when you move beyond your comfort zone. Small acts of courage build lasting confidence. Preparation is important, but action ultimately creates progress. Many of life's greatest regrets come from opportunities never pursued. Your comfort zone may keep you safe for a while, but it can never show you everything you're capable of becoming. The life you've been imagining often begins with one brave step into the unknown. Courage gives you the strength to move forward, even when the path is uncertain. But lasting transformation requires one more essential quality: the ability to stay committed long after the excitement of a new beginning has faded. In the next chapter, we'll explore the power of consistency and why the people who create extraordinary lives are rarely the ones who move the fastest. More often, they're the ones who simply refuse to stop. Chapter 11. Stay consistent. The quiet habit behind extraordinary results. Imagine watching a sculptor begin work on a massive block of stone. For hours, all you hear is the steady sound of a hammer striking a chisel. One strike, then another, and another. To someone passing by, it might seem as though nothing is happening. The stone looks almost exactly the same. Then, after hundreds or even thousands of careful strikes, a piece suddenly breaks away. Little by little, a beautiful sculpture begins to emerge. It would be easy to believe that the final strike created the masterpiece. But it didn't. Every strike mattered. The last one simply revealed what countless earlier efforts had been quietly building. Life follows this same pattern. We often admire the finished result while overlooking the daily consistency that made it possible. In this chapter, we'll explore why consistency is one of the most powerful habits you can develop, and why small efforts, repeated over time, can accomplish what occasional bursts of motivation never will. Main lesson. Have you ever noticed how nature rarely rushes? The sun rises every morning. The seasons change in their own time. Trees don't grow several feet overnight. Yet year after year, forests become stronger because growth is steady rather than sudden. There's a lesson in that. Many people approach personal growth like a sprint. They become inspired, work tirelessly for a few weeks, and expect immediate transformation. When dramatic results don't appear, they lose enthusiasm. Eventually, they stop altogether. Then, months later, they begin again from the beginning. This cycle is exhausting. More importantly, it's unnecessary. Imagine filling a bucket with a single drop of water every minute. One drop doesn't seem important. Neither do 10. But if you remain patient, the bucket will eventually overflow. Consistency often feels unimpressive in the moment because progress is almost invisible. That's why so many people underestimate it. Consider someone learning a musical instrument. They practice 20 minutes every day. At first, progress is difficult to notice. Then one day, they realize they're playing songs that once seemed impossible. The improvement didn't happen overnight. It happened because they kept showing up. This idea applies to nearly every area of life. Healthy relationships grow through consistent kindness. Financial stability grows through consistent saving. Knowledge grows through consistent learning. Fitness grows through consistent movement. Character grows through consistent choices. Notice the common word. Consistent. Not perfect. Consistency is often confused with perfection, but they're completely different. Perfection demands that every day go exactly according to plan. Consistency simply asks you to return even after you've stumbled. Imagine someone trying to walk up a long staircase. If they trip on one step, would they climb back down and start over? Of course not. They regain their balance and continue climbing. Yet many of us don't treat our habits that way. We miss one workout and abandon exercise for weeks. We skip one day of journaling and stop writing altogether. We eat one unhealthy meal and convince ourselves we've ruined our progress. Real consistency isn't about never making mistakes. It's about refusing to let mistakes become permanent. Think back to the habits we've explored throughout this audiobook. Building healthy routines. Developing a growth mindset. Protecting your time. Continuing to learn. Taking action. Practicing gratitude. Strengthening relationships. Developing resilience. Living with purpose. Choosing courage. None of these habits become life-changing after a single day. Their power comes from repetition. It's like weaving a rope. One thread is easy to break, but hundreds of threads woven together create remarkable strength. Your daily choices work the same way. One good decision may not change your life. Thousands of good decisions certainly can. Another challenge to consistency is impatience. We live in a world where results often appear instantly. Messages arrive within seconds. Packages arrive within days. Entertainment is available at the touch of a screen. It's easy to expect personal growth to happen just as quickly. But meaningful transformation still follows a slower rhythm. Imagine planting an apple tree. Would you dig it up every week to check whether the roots are growing? Of course not. You water it. Protect it. Trust the process. Growth happens beneath the surface long before fruit appears. Many of your habits are doing the same thing. Even when you can't immediately see the results, your efforts are shaping your future. Consistency also requires flexibility. Life will interrupt your routines. You'll become busy. Travel. Face unexpected challenges. Experience illness. Celebrate milestones. Schedules change. The goal isn't maintaining a perfect routine under every circumstance. The goal is returning as soon as possible. Flexible consistency lasts much longer than rigid perfection. Let's also talk about identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, No matter how small, you strengthen trust in your own character. You begin thinking, I'm someone who follows through. That belief becomes incredibly powerful, because people naturally act in ways that align with how they see themselves. If you identify as someone who values growth, kindness, learning, and discipline, your daily decisions gradually begin reflecting those qualities. Your identity becomes the foundation beneath your habits, and your habits reinforce your identity. It's a cycle that grows stronger with time. Imagine walking through a forest. The first person creates only a faint trail. As more people walk the same path, it becomes easier to follow. Eventually, it's a well-worn road. Your habits create similar pathways in your mind. The more often you repeat a positive behavior, the more natural it becomes. What once required effort eventually becomes part of who you are. Finally, remember that consistency isn't about impressing others. Most of your greatest victories will happen quietly. No audience will applaud when you choose to read instead of scroll. No celebration will mark the day you save a little money instead of spending it. No headlines will appear because you kept a promise to yourself. Yet these quiet victories shape extraordinary lives. Years from now, people may admire your success. What they may never see are the thousands of ordinary days when you simply chose to keep going. Those days are where transformation lives. Reflection. Take a moment to think about one habit you've started and stopped several times. What usually causes you to give up? Is it a lack of ability? Or is it the expectation of immediate results? Now ask yourself another question. What could change if you focused less on perfection and more on simply showing up each day? Remember, consistency isn't measured by flawless performance. It's measured by your willingness to begin again. Action step. Choose one positive habit you've developed during this audiobook. Commit to practicing it every day for the next 30 days. Keep a simple calendar and place a checkmark on each day you complete the habit. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. If you miss a day, don't miss two. Simply begin again tomorrow. Key takeaways. Consistency creates results that occasional motivation cannot. Small daily actions accumulate into extraordinary achievements. Missing one day doesn't erase your progress. Flexible routines are more sustainable than perfect ones. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens your identity. Great lives are rarely built through dramatic moments. They're built through ordinary days when someone quietly decides, once again, to keep moving forward. We've explored the habits that shape a meaningful life, but one final lesson remains. In our closing chapter, we'll bring everything together into a simple philosophy for lifelong growth, one that reminds us that becoming our best selves isn't a destination we reach once, but a journey we choose every single day. Chapter 12. The journey never ends. Become better than you were yesterday. Imagine reading the final page of an inspiring novel. You close the book, sit quietly for a moment, and realize something unexpected. Although the story has ended, your own story continues. The lessons you've learned don't stay on the pages. They become part of the choices you make after you put the book down. This audiobook is much the same. Over the past chapters, we've explored habits that can transform the way you think, work, learn, relate to others, and respond to life's challenges. But knowledge alone doesn't change lives. Application does. This final chapter isn't about introducing another habit. Instead, it's about bringing everything together into a way of living, a lifelong commitment to becoming just a little better than you were yesterday. Because personal growth is not a finish line. It's a direction. And every new day offers another opportunity to continue the journey. Main lesson. Imagine an artist standing before a blank canvas. Every brush stroke matters. Some strokes are bold. Others are subtle. Some mistakes require adjustment. Others unexpectedly become the most beautiful part of the painting. At no point does the artist complete the entire masterpiece with a single movement. The painting comes alive one brushstroke at a time. Your life is being painted in exactly the same way. Every habit you've explored throughout this audiobook is another brushstroke. Some days you'll make remarkable progress. Other days your growth will feel almost invisible. Both kinds of days matter. One of the greatest misconceptions about personal development is the belief that one day you'll finally arrive. You'll become completely disciplined, completely confident, completely fearless, completely successful. Real life rarely works that way. Growth isn't a mountain you climb once. It's more like tending a garden. Even after flowers bloom, the garden still needs care. Weeds still appear. Seasons still change. New plants need attention. The work never truly ends, but neither does the beauty. Think about someone who has exercised regularly for 20 years. Do they stop because they're healthy? Of course not. The habit continues because it's become part of who they are. The same is true of gratitude, learning, kindness, purpose, resilience. These aren't temporary projects. They're lifelong companions. Let's revisit the 5 core habits that inspired this audiobook's title. The first is building positive daily habits. Everything meaningful begins with the small choices you repeat consistently. Never underestimate the power of ordinary actions. The second is developing a growth mindset. The way you think influences the way you live. When you believe improvement is possible, every challenge becomes an opportunity to learn rather than a reason to quit. The third is protecting your time and continuing to learn. Time is your most valuable resource, and learning is one of the greatest investments you can make with it. The fourth is taking courageous, consistent action. Dreams become reality only when they're matched with movement. You don't need perfect confidence. You simply need the willingness to take the next step. And the fifth is living with gratitude, purpose, resilience, and meaningful relationships. Success becomes richer when it's guided by values and shared with others. Together, these habits create a foundation that can support you through every season of life. Notice something important. None of these habits require extraordinary talent. None require perfect circumstances. None depend on luck. They're available to anyone willing to practice them consistently. That means lasting transformation is far more accessible than many people believe. Imagine looking back on your life 1 year from today. You won't remember every ordinary Tuesday. You probably won't remember every email you answered or every errand you completed. But you'll notice the person you've become. You'll notice whether you've become more patient, more disciplined, more grateful, more courageous, more intentional. That's the true measure of growth. Not how busy you've been, but how deeply you've changed. Remember the opening chapter? We talked about the quiet power of small habits. Now, at the end of our journey together, that idea has become even more meaningful. Every chapter has pointed back to the same truth. Small actions, repeated consistently, guided by purpose, strengthened by resilience, supported by healthy relationships. These are the building blocks of a remarkable life. And here's one final thought to carry with you. Don't compare your journey to someone else's. Every person's timeline is different. Some people achieve goals quickly. Others take longer. Neither path determines your worth. The only meaningful comparison is between the person you were yesterday and the person you're becoming today. If you've become a little wiser, a little kinder, a little more disciplined, a little more hopeful, then you're already succeeding. Because growth isn't about perfection. It's about progress. And progress, no matter how small, always moves you forward. Final reflection. As we come to the end of this audiobook, take a quiet moment to reflect on the journey we've shared. Think about the habits you've already developed and the ones you'd like to strengthen. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. Picture the small daily choices becoming second nature. Imagine waking up with greater clarity because you've learned to protect your time. Picture yourself responding to challenges with resilience instead of discouragement. Imagine stronger relationships because you've become more present and appreciative. Think about the confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself day after day. Now ask yourself this question. If I truly commit to these habits, not perfectly, but consistently, how different could my life be 1 year from today? Hold on to that image. Not as a fantasy, as a possibility. Because the future is shaped by what you choose to do after this audiobook ends. Complete audiobook summary. Let's briefly revisit the journey we've taken together. Chapter 1. We learned that lasting transformation begins with small daily habits practiced consistently. Chapter 2. We discovered that our mindset shapes our actions, and that growth begins by changing the stories we tell ourselves. Chapter 3. We explored the importance of protecting our time and directing our energy toward what truly matters. Chapter 4. We embraced lifelong learning as a habit that keeps us adaptable, curious, and prepared for new opportunities. Chapter 5. We saw that consistent action, not perfect planning, is what turns dreams into reality. Chapter 6. We learned how gratitude changes our perspective, helping us appreciate the journey while continuing to pursue meaningful goals. Chapter 7. We recognized that meaningful relationships enrich every part of life and remind us that success is best when shared. Chapter 8. We explored resilience and discovered that setbacks can become stepping stones when we choose to learn rather than surrender. Chapter 9. We reflected on living with purpose, allowing our values to guide our daily decisions. Chapter 10. We learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to keep moving despite it. Chapter 11. We discovered that consistency quietly accomplishes what occasional bursts of motivation cannot. Chapter 12. Finally, we brought everything together with one simple reminder. Personal growth is not a destination. It is a lifelong journey built one day, one decision, and one habit at a time. 7-Day Success Challenge. Here's a simple challenge to help you begin putting these lessons into practice. Day 1. Build one small habit. Choose one habit from this audiobook that takes less than 5 minutes to complete. Focus only on showing up. Day to protect your time. Identify one unnecessary distraction and replace it with 30 minutes of meaningful activity, such as reading, exercising, or learning. Day 3. Practice gratitude. Write down 3 things you're grateful for and tell one person how much you appreciate them. Day 4. Learn something new. Spend at least 20 minutes learning a skill or topic that genuinely interests you. Day 5. Do one courageous thing. Take one action you've been postponing because it feels uncomfortable. Day 6. Strengthen a relationship. Have an uninterrupted conversation with someone important to you. Listen more than you speak. Day 7. Reflect and reset. Review your week. Celebrate what went well. Learn from what didn't. Choose one habit to continue practicing over the next 30 days. Remember, this isn't about completing a perfect week. It's about beginning a better one. If there's one message I'd like you to remember long after this audiobook ends, it's this. Your future is not created by occasional moments of inspiration. It's created by the ordinary choices you make when no one is watching. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, curiosity over complacency, gratitude over complaint, courage over comfort, and consistency over perfection, you're becoming the person you hope to be. There will be days when progress feels slow, days when you question yourself, days when old habits try to pull you backward. That's part of every worthwhile journey. When those moments come, don't ask yourself to be perfect. Ask yourself to keep going. One step, one habit, one day at a time. Because remarkable lives aren't built in a single breakthrough. They're built through thousands of quiet decisions that, over time, become an extraordinary story. And beginning today, that story is yours to write. Final call to action. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this audiobook has encouraged you, taught you something new, or inspired you to take even one positive step forward, I truly appreciate your support. Please like this video so it can reach more people who may need these lessons. If you'd like to continue growing together, subscribe to the channel for more motivational and personal development audiobooks. If you know someone who could benefit from this message, share this audiobook with them. One conversation or one new idea can make a lasting difference in someone's life. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell us, what was your biggest insight from today's audiobook? Which habit are you going to begin practicing first? Your story may encourage someone else to take their own first step. Thank you for being part of this journey. As we bring today's audiobook to a close, thank you once again for choosing to spend your valuable time here. Every moment you invest in your personal growth is an investment in the person you're becoming, and I hope today's journey has given you practical ideas and lasting encouragement to carry into your everyday life. Wherever you are in your journey, remember that meaningful progress is made one thoughtful choice at a time. Keep learning. Keep growing. Keep believing that small, consistent actions can create extraordinary results. I look forward to sharing another audiobook with you soon. Until next time, take care of yourself, keep moving forward, and may each new day bring you greater wisdom, purpose, and peace. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next audiobook. The end.